I just turned 30 years old. I spent my 20s working on some of the biggest podcasts and radio shows in the country, and now I'm going out alone in my 30s. Here is everything I learned in my 20s and how you should apply it in your life.
Here's a catchphrase you better learn for your adult years. Hey buddy, got a quarter?
What's up guys, Mike here. Welcome back to my channel. For more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. Let's get into it. Okay, I have put together a list of the main things I've learned over my 20s and how I'm applying them in my 30s. This is actually from a blog post I did over on my Substack. You can find a link to it down below, but basically you can read it or you can watch it here. These are in no particular order, but these are just a few things from someone who had a reasonably successful career in his 20s and is now like starting again in his 30s. These are like all the lessons I'm really going to hold on to in my 30s. So number one, stop doing shit you don't want to do. This one is pretty self-explanatory, but it's actually a lot harder than it seems. I spent a lot of my 20s doing stuff that I just didn't want to do, mainly because I wanted to either fit in, I had FOMO, or if it was work related, I just thought that I had to say yes to everything and I had to impress everyone by saying yes to everything. Like, to be honest, during my 20s, I would go out a lot drinking with friends when I never really enjoyed it. I don't enjoy the taste of alcohol. All I really wanted to do was either stay at home playing video games with friends, chill listening to music, or like go out and have dinners and conversations with people, not being in like these loud, dingy nightclubs where you have to like scream to get anything heard. But I just did them because everyone else I was hanging out with was, and that's no slight. Like when you're young, you just want to fit in, so you do what everyone else does. If you say yes to everything, even though you don't want to do it, you end up spreading yourself really thin, and you also eventually realize it just leads to you being unhappy. Instead, you should actually say no to more things. The more you say no, the more you do stuff that you actually want to do, and the more you spend your precious time doing stuff that you actually want to do. So just stop doing shit you don't want to do. Number two, the more true to yourself you can be, the happier you will be.
Hey, what's going on? How are you? Yeah. Oh, it's just me, Stewie. Just being myself.
Okay, this one actually also might sound really straightforward, but it is a lot harder in practice. What I realized through my life is, particularly in my late teens, early 20s, I spent a lot of time like hiding the real me. Like I was a huge nerd. I wanted to play video games and talk about movies and talk about nerdy stuff I was into. I loved computers, and I always thought that those parts of me were like the embarrassing, shameful parts of me, and I created that story in my head. Then in 2019, I started a podcast. It no longer runs, but I ran it for 6 years. It was called 20th Century Boy, where I just decided I was going to talk about literally whatever was on my mind and whatever I found interesting, the nerdiest stuff. And at first I felt completely ashamed of who I was, like in the worst way. But what I realized is the more true to myself I was, the more like people who were like me found me. The more I was talking about my experiences and the things that I like to do, regardless of like how nerdy or whatever I perceive them to be, the more people like me came to me and were like, I like that too.
Did we just become best friends? Yep!
Suddenly, you're making friends with people who have the same kinds of interests as you. And when you surround yourself with people like that, you just end up happier, more productive, and more successful. Embrace yourself, shake off that shame, and just be exactly who you are, because you are never going to be happy pretending to be someone you're not. Number three, your parents are probably right.
Now, son, on your first day of school, I'd like to pass along the words of advice my father gave me.
Homer, you're dumb as a mule and twice as ugly. If a strange man offers you a ride, I say take it.
I say this one because I spent a lot of time in my 20s like resenting my parents for like perceived childhood injustices. And I mean a lot of my 20s, and it's a waste of time. Harboring this resentment for family or parents or holding grudges for anyone is just dead weight on you. Actually maturing is realizing that your parents are just people too, they did their best, and they are as equally as flawed as you. You don't expect anyone to be perfect, so don't expect your parents to be as well. I'm telling you now, the quicker you let go of this resentment for your parents, the happier you will be and the more enriched your relationships with them will be. I thought that my parents were wrong about everything when I was a teenager, when I was in my 20s, but looking back now at age 30, I completely understand everything they were saying, and I totally get that they were right about pretty much everything. Move on from hating your parents or being like a teen rebellious kid. Just grow up, forgive your parents, and get on with them because they care about you more than anyone else. Number four, be content with your life or you will chase a high forever.
Lily has no idea I'm high.
You're high?
This was probably the hardest one I had to learn because I feel like for most of my 20s, I was on this like hamster wheel, hoping that one day I would like explode in popularity and like universal acclaim. I wanted to be the most well-liked person in the world. I wanted everyone to think I was awesome. I wanted to be considered the best and the funniest person ever. And literally everything I did was in search of that goal. Problem is that that is an unattainable goal. Only when I like stopped and looked around at what I had achieved and what I was doing, and that there were so many people who probably would have loved to have been doing what I was doing for work, did I realize that I didn't have to chase that anymore. And this isn't just in like work and accolades, but it can also take form in like all these kinds of addictions, whether it be like drugs, alcohol, sex, porn, all of this stuff that just genuinely holds you back. The quicker you just accept that like you are okay as you are and are content with who you are and who you are becoming, the quicker you can stop wasting time chasing unattainable goals. Because even if you do get to the goalpost, which I thought I did multiple times, the goalpost will move again and you will never get there. You'll chase it for the rest of your life. So stop chasing it. Number 5, if you want something to happen, you have to make it happen. This one is a tough learning, but when you actually think about it logically, then it just completely makes sense. The only way to truly fail is by taking zero action. If you take zero action, then you are guaranteeing that what you want will never happen. The alternative to that is just take some action every day to try and make what you want to happen happen. If you've read this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, you will know that life works in compounding returns. Each little habit every day incrementally adds up either positively or negatively in your life. I would suggest that every day you try to do something to bring yourself closer to your goals. I have other thoughts around this with anxiety preventing you to start for another video, but generally speaking, stepping into the anxiety is the best thing you can do, and I encourage you to step outside your comfort zone to reach your goals. Don't let anxiety and fear stop you from doing what you want to do. Number 6, if you're depressed, it's your brain telling you you need to change stuff.
Yeah, you've got to help us, Doc. We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
Okay, I'm going to be careful about this one because I realize that it is much more complicated than that. But as a general rule, when you are depressed, you should definitely take a minute and reflect on what am I doing in my day-to-day life every day. Ask yourself, am I drinking water? Am I exercising? And by exercising, I mean literally like going outside for a half-hour walk. In my early 20s, I was constantly depressed. I was unmotivated. I felt like I had no direction. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I constantly felt like a failure, but instead of changing variables in my life, I just wallowed in my own sorrow. I didn't go to therapy. I was on social media all the time before bed. I didn't read any books. I did nothing to try and get myself out of this slump. I just accepted that this was me and blamed everybody else. Stop doing that. Just accept that if you are constantly feeling depressed, just take that as an opportunity to reflect on what you're doing and make incremental changes every day to try and better yourself and get out of that slump. Number 7, and this is probably my favorite of the bunch, it's people don't perceive you the way you perceive yourself.
I beg of you, please forgive me.
I'm not going to speak about this with shame, but in my mid-20s, I had an enormous mental breakdown which led to me ending up calling a crisis line. My thoughts had become really warped and convoluted. I was genuinely an emotional wreck. I couldn't function at all, and I called a crisis line for help. It was a build-up of anxiety and self-loathing and confidence issues and all of this stuff, and I felt as though everyone was watching me and judging me, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. It was the worst mental state I'd ever been in. And to this day, I have no idea who was on the other side of that phone, but it was a man, and he said one thing to me that I have never forgotten and I have used every day of my life. He said to me that people don't perceive you the way you perceive yourself. While your own thoughts might be describing you with like crazy words like stupid and ugly and terrible and horrible and a bad person, other people are probably looking at you and thinking nice, funny, kind, friendly, or even just normal or average. Always reflect on the fact that your thoughts are not a reality. Your thoughts are just like your thoughts. They just come, okay? People do not perceive you the same way you perceive yourself, and that's something to really keep in mind. Number 8, no one will vouch for you as much as you vouch for yourself. This is probably more so in terms of career, but Essentially, along the way, you will meet amazing people who will support you, they will mentor you, they will find opportunities for you, and those are great people to have around you. I've had a lot of them throughout my career that I'm really grateful for. I was working for a business that I only ever dreamed of working for, and for a while I thought like it was the best place I could be. But over time, I started to question whether that was true or not, and I realized that a lot of the time I wasn't being rewarded for the work I was giving them. When you reach your late 20s and 30s, I feel like you've really got to vouch for yourself and stand up for what you believe is fair. No one is going to value you the same way you value yourself, and you have to be your biggest advocate. Ultimately, you're on your own. You need to make decisions that are best for you, and you need to put yourself first, which is sometimes perceived as a selfish thing to do, but it is so true. Number 9, everyone is equally as insecure as you are. They just don't show it the same way as you. In my late teens and early 20s, I genuinely thought that everyone else had everything together, knew exactly what they were doing career-wise, life-wise, relationship-wise, and had no doubts ever. I thought that I was the weird one because I felt directionless, unmotivated, existential, and nihilistic. I had body image issues and still deal with that. I had mental health issues, and I just thought that I was the odd one out and I was the weird one. Over time, as I started being more open about these feelings with friends, I realized that I actually was in the majority of people who have this exact same experience. Everybody feels like an imposter. Everyone is making it up as they go along. I certainly am. I have no shame in admitting that. And instead of wallowing in your own insecurities, embrace your insecurities, talk about them with your friends. You will become closer with your friends. You will become closer with strangers, and you will connect with people so much more when you open up and realize that we are all insecure. Number 10, this is the last one, another very important one, but they all are. Social media is almost certainly the thing that is fucking up your life. I am a millennial. I was born in 1994. I was on MySpace, Facebook, Snapchat, all of that stuff from like the late 2000s. Nothing good has come out of this stuff for me. Nothing. Humans did not evolve to constantly see what everyone else was doing and act like they are all a celebrity and putting out your best moments to everyone. Everyone is having shit moments during their day. They just don't advertise it, so that makes you feel like you're the odd one out. Social media is definitely contributing to you feeling depressed, to you feeling jealous, and it is definitely altering the chemistry of your brain. That is literally a fact. Remove the apps from your phone. If you need to check them once a day or something, use the browser versions. Stop using TikTok right now. The thing about TikTok is it's like a buffet, all you can eat style content generating thing. The thing about buffets is there's a lot of variety, but all the food is pretty average. Put your phone down and spend time alone with your thoughts every day. Reflect, keep a journal. I keep one on my laptop. Ring your friends on the phone, or better yet, organize to hang out with them in person with no phones. On social media, you're treating your brain to constantly seek instant pleasure. It's the same as like watching porn or shooting up heroin. You're not letting your brain process stuff, and you're not teaching yourself to delay gratification. I still struggle with this, but honestly, like deleting the apps off my phone has been a huge thing for me. It has really freed up so much time to just do other productive stuff. I've read more books in 2024 than I ever had. I was in the top 6% of users on Duolingo, learning Italian and Japanese every day when I brush my teeth. I just get more stuff done and am more productive without social media. So just delete it. You will notice so much change. So those are 10 of my biggest learnings in my 20s. Feel free to take or leave any of them. Feel free to adapt them, or like all of these lessons are just things that I've picked up in my life. Like that you probably have your own things that you've learned as well. I'd love to know them. Leave a comment below. Like, do any of these speak to you? Do you disagree? Do you think any of these are going to be useful for you in your life? I would really love to know. This is a different kind of video for me. I'm usually making more pop culture content, but this is like an example of maybe the kind of content I want to make more of in 2025. So yeah, if you like my channel, comment, engage, subscribe, join the club here. You know, it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to bring you guys more content in 2024. 30 years of me being alive. How crazy is that? But that's pretty much it from me right now. My name's Radio Mike. This has been The Inside of My Mind, and I'll catch you later.